If you caught my first video on the stupid things that employers make you do in the interviewing process, I told you that I wasn't finished. Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you the rest of the stupid things that I feel that employers make you do in the interviewing process. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to finish up my thoughts on stupid things that employers make you do in the interviewing process. As a corporate recruiter, and also at times in my life a job seeker, I have gone through the entire gamut of recruiting. And sometimes they make you jump through what seems like an endless series of hoops just to get an interview. And if you're lucky enough to get that interview, it seems like another series of endless hoops to get to that mythical offer. So in the spirit of candidate experience, I'm going to share with you some more things that I think employers make you do that's pretty stupid. So if you're a talent acquisition person or a hiring manager listening to this video, maybe take some notes. And if you notice any of these things in your hiring practices, it might be a chance to revisit that. But before we jump into the rest of the list, if you haven't checked out that other video, I'll leave a link below. And if you're interested in more videos just like this one, directly from a corporate recruiter, all about career advice and how to land that mythical dream job, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and you might want to consider hitting the notification bell so that you don't miss any future posts. All right, so let's jump into the rest of the list of things that employers make you do that can be pretty stupid. So the next thing that's on my list is asking for more experience than is really necessary. Now, there's nothing more frustrating than being an entry-level job seeker and seeing a posting that says that it's entry-level but is requiring 2 to 3 years of real-life experience. And it's the old adage of the chicken or the egg. You can't get a job because you don't have the experience, but you don't have the experience, so you can't get a job. But it is really frustrating, even from a recruiter's perspective, when we see that requirement, and especially coming from a hiring manager who is writing up a job description. A good recruiter was actually going to push back on that hiring manager and say, this is an entry-level job, why are we expecting 2 to 3 years of experience? But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that happens a whole lot. And I see it time and time again where a position will be posted for a certain level of responsibility, but the ask from the employer is that you have much more experience than is necessary for the job. Because listen, if you post an entry-level job requiring 2 to 3 years of experience, it is not an entry-level job. And the person that you're hiring better be compensated appropriately. More often than not, it's just a hiring manager that is completely out of touch with the realities of the job-seeking market. And that's why it's important to know your worth and avoid these type of roles. Now, I know what you're saying. I'm entry level, I can't afford to be picky, but in a lot of cases, you really should try to be picky because starting off with the wrong employer can really set you back in your career. And you're likely going to be always frustrated by the low rate of pay and the amount of hours that you're going to have to work to earn it. And taking that a step further, another thing that I see very frequently that's pretty frustrating is positions that are posted requiring a degree when the position actually doesn't need it in order to be successful. In fact, I know a well-known rental car company that requires a college degree for their front desk rental people. There's nothing about that job that truly requires a degree to be successful. But for whatever reason, that's a barrier to entry, and they're eliminating a lot of potentially great candidates. In fact, I'd venture to say probably only 30% of the positions posted require the degree type that they're asking for in the posting. So while it can be frustrating, it's a barrier to entry and something stupid that employers do. All right, so let's talk about the next one. And these are usually all related, but it's companies that advertise insultingly low pay ranges. These companies are requiring world-class education, experience, and skills, but are paying well below industry standards. That's why it's worth paying close attention to things like Glassdoor and Comparably before you consider taking an opportunity. Because listen, employers, if you can only afford the Chevy, stop shopping on the BMW lot. And job seekers, do your part too and stop accepting low-quality jobs from low-quality employers paying well below market value. All right, the next one is something that we've all experienced as well as job seekers, and if you've done any level of interviewing, you're probably going to have experienced employment ghosting at some point in time. In fact, I made an entire video about that, and make sure you check that out if you're more interested in my perspective on employment ghosting. Basically what it is an employer reaches out to you and engages you or tries to gauge your interest in a particular position and then fails to follow up with it. It's even worse when you actually make it into the interview and then they don't follow up with the status of it. And in some cases, they might take 2 or 3 months to get back to you. All in all, it's a poor candidate experience and something that employers should try to avoid. So if you're somebody that is experiencing ghosting, it's worth sending the hiring manager and the recruiter a note nudging them to see if there's any news on the status of your application. So the next stupid thing that I think employers make candidates do is including a questionnaire at the application level. This is a personal pet peeve of mine, because to me it's the ultimate form of lazy recruiting. Essentially what it is when you fill out the application, a company then sends you a list of behavior-based interview questions, and they're expecting you to fill it out as part of your application submission. From an employer's perspective, it's great because the recruiter doesn't have to do any of the work of pre-screening candidates. They can just go off the questionnaires. But from a job application perspective, it is really terrible experience, because essentially what they're doing is asking every candidate to spend an extra 20 to 30 minutes on an application, with the likelihood of them actually getting a phone call being probably less than 5%. And not only that, you're also screening yourself out for them. Because if you answer that question wrong, you're going to get a rejection letter. And usually it's accompanied by some cute questions about why you think that that employer is the best fit for you and vice versa. And let's face it, employers, candidates who are looking for jobs are not specifically seeking out your opportunity. They're looking for a job, and they just happened upon you because you had an employment ad. And I hate to break the news to you, you probably don't have a life-changing opportunity, and you're certainly not special. So stop making candidates screen themselves out through your lazy recruiting processes. All right, so let's talk about another candidate experience issue that I see happen frequently. It's asking for assessments at the application level. So you might be asked to fill out an assessment like a Wonderlic or a personality profile during your application process. Personally, I don't put any weight into these things, and it's usually for entry-level or individual contributor roles. It's really kind of just a head scratcher. Companies need to be more flexible and more accommodating to a larger group of employees, especially in a buyer's market. And nothing is worse as a candidate to taking all this time to filling out your assessment only to get a rejection letter 1 to 2 hours later. The next thing I think is stupid in the interviewing process is one-way interviews. And if you've ever done one of these, essentially what it is a pre-recorded interview where you have to talk into a camera and it records your response. And it gets sent off to somebody that you never meet in person, and then you get a rejection letter if you don't answer the questions correctly. From a candidate's perspective, it's a very poor experience because you don't have the interaction, and frankly, it's a lazy recruiting practice. So hiring managers, pick up the phone and do your job. Call the candidates and have a conversation. All right, so the last major stupid thing that I think employers ask you to do in the interviewing process is requiring a special project be prepared. Now, I'm not wholesale against this idea, but only for specific positions. If you're moving into a very senior level or strategic based role, I can see the value in doing this type of exercise to show that you have a strategic mindset. But asking individual contributors to put together a presentation, especially to solve a business situation or business need that you currently are facing, is very poor candidate experience. Because for all we know, you could be taking our information and our intellectual work and then stealing it and applying it to your own business. And I'm sure there's some unscrupulous companies out there who do that exact thing. And at the end of the day, it's just not great candidate experience. You can find out everything that you need to find out through a well-tailored behavior-based interview and technical assessment. All right, so there's my total list of things that are annoying in the interviewing process. If you're a job seeker, sometimes it can feel like you're staring at a mountain that you have to climb. Don't worry, if you target high-quality employers and you put your best foot forward with the tips and suggestions that I give in my channel and on my website, you're eventually going to land that perfect opportunity. But if you need more help, that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called alifeafterlayoff.com. It's loaded with tips and tricks, all directly from an insider's perspective. And I share some of my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of a couple of training courses. The first one is called Resume Rocketfuel. It teaches you exactly how to write a resume that's going to give you the best chance of getting noticed by that recruiter and ultimately to land that first interview. And once you land that first interview, it's up to you to sell yourself throughout the rest of the process. That's where the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp comes into play. It breaks down each step of the interviewing process, what it is that hiring managers are looking for, how to ace each interview, and ultimately how to land your dream job. So if you're struggling, definitely encourage you to check it out. Hey, I appreciate you watching. If you're an active job seeker, I know how frustrating it can be, but stick with it and you're going to land something soon. We'll see you on the next one.